This is the Prostate Pit Stop. One man's journey, everyone's fight. With Keith Smith and Matt McCleary. Sponsored by the Ferry Project. Visit our website, ferryproject.org.uk. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Prostate Pit Stop. I'm Matt.
I'm Verity, Keith's daughter.
And I'm Anna, Keith's wife, for better or worse.
I was just about to say, for all of you who have listened to this podcast regularly, you might have got a little surprise because usually it's Keith saying hello. But of course, I'm joined by some special guests today. We've got Anna, who's Keith's wife, as you just said, and Verity, who is one of his children. How many children has Keith got?
5.
And you are number
4.
Number 4. Okay. So we've got them on the show today simply because one of the things we talked about in a previous episode was that a diagnosis like prostate cancer doesn't just affect the individual. It has a wider ripple effect on the family and sort of friends as well. So we just wanted to get a different sort of family perspective on things. So thanks for coming in today. Let's make a start then. So what were your first reactions when you discovered that Keith had prostate cancer?
Well, I was nice to Keith for 3 days. And then after 3 days, I couldn't keep it up and I shouted at him and he said, "Oh, good, it's back to normal."
For me, I wasn't particularly surprised. I was upset, but we'd known that there was something wrong for a considerable amount of time. I imagine he's talked about his sepsis, which was a good couple of years ago now. And since then, he's been having regular infections and problems with his prostate. So they've been monitoring it. So I've since found out that actually those infections didn't necessarily mean that he would have cancer. But I tend to jump towards worst case scenarios. So yes, when I heard the diagnosis, I didn't feel surprised at all.
And I know, Anna, you've had cancer yourself. What kind of cancer have you had?
I had breast cancer.
And that was several
That
years
was 2010.
Yes.
And I had a mastectomy on the right-hand side.
Okay. And because you've had cancer yourself and you've kind of been through it, although it's a different kind of cancer, and we know everyone's cancer experience is a bit different, but you have had some experience. Do you think that affected your reaction to Keith's cancer diagnosis in any way?
I think so, in that I understood a bit more. It's very lonely having cancer, because however much you know people love you, it's actually you. And you're the one who has to go through everything. And even, we're a very jokey family. And just sometimes the jokes were a bit thin and you think, oh, I could just have a little bit of a serious conversation would be nice. Yeah. And the other way is when we had to make a decision between is he going to have prostatectomy or radiotherapy, because I had a total mastectomy and it got the cancer and I didn't have to have chemotherapy. I didn't have to have radiotherapy. It was the best result in that way. So I think that helped us influence. Well, he made the decision, but I agreed with him that to have a prostatectomy, to take it all out and hopefully get all the cancer and not have to do all the nasty chemotherapy and stuff. Chemotherapy is good, but it's also nasty.
It is. I've had it. Yes, I've had chemotherapy. Yes. It does you good, but my goodness, it's horrible. Yeah. Okay. So, Verity, you haven't had cancer, but of course, there's been people in your family who have. Yep. So, because you've kind of been in this position before, in a sense, do you think that affected your response to this diagnosis?
Yes, definitely. Because it is one of those things that I grew up with cancer being more of a death sentence. When you heard that meant that it was just a question of how long is this person going to be with us for? But yeah, obviously since then, medicine has developed, technologies and understanding have developed, and it's not the case anymore. So actually, when Dad was diagnosed, I was actually going through a list of the people who I know who have come out the other side of cancer. and are in remission. And actually, it's loads of people. I know loads, and especially close family members as well. I've not had, anyone actually pass away from cancer.
Except Colin. Uncle Colin.
Yes, that's true. But yes, and that's out of about 10 people. So yeah, it's much. I didn't have that same sense of impending doom. There was more hope because of my previous experience.
Although it still affected you, though, didn't it? Because you found that your stress levels at work and things were increased, and sleepless nights and that kind of thing.
Yes, I wasn't. It still impacted me.
But it wasn't whoa, thrice whoa.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't a definite end. The thing, it was more, they're dealing with mortality. The fact that our parents are getting older, that's just a part of life. And it's always interesting when you move into it feels like you're moving into the next generation. But now we're in this middle generation with children below us and grandparents above us.
Sandwich generation.
Coming to terms with that. But yeah, no, it did make me stressed. And for me, it was a bit different because it obviously has impacted my family life and home life. But my work situation was impacted as well because I'm in an unusual situation where I'm the only employee for my church, and Dad is my manager. So it has massively impacted my work life as well. So I discovered I've been very, very stressed at work and quite stressed at home. And it's felt more like I felt more lonely at work because of what's going on with Dad, because I wanted to give him space. And in order to do that, it means trying to cope and manage things at work more on my own. So I found that particularly difficult. But it's nice now that he's in the recovery section, I can start to talk to him a bit more about worky things.
So how is of course, a different reaction than someone else you might not have been through this before when you first heard. But what has it been like since the diagnosis? Because Keith mentioned in a previous episode that you started talking about it as our cancer rather than your cancer or the cancer.
Yes, there was a bit, when you're in denial at the beginning and it was, it's your body, it's your decision, whatever. And then I thought, no, we're together in this. This is so we discussed his options and all that sort of thing. So emotionally, it was interesting. I can feel more than one thing at once. So if somebody said, how are you? I can say, I'm all right. But I could also say, I'm not all right, because I can be all right and not all right at the same time. There's bits of me that are in both camps. That sounds really weird.
No, it makes a lot of sense when you've been there. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Oh, good.
So I knew we're in God's hands, who know what's doing, but everybody's got to die. You've got to die sometime. Better later than earlier, but not too late.
So what advice have you got? So if there are family members listening to the podcast and someone in their family, someone they know has been diagnosed, whether it's with prostate cancer or another kind of cancer, what advice have you got for family members experiencing something similar to what you've experienced with Keith?
I would say to talk about it as if it does affect you. So it's our thing, not because that makes it more lonely if you say, because it's the modern thing, it's my body. If you get rid of that modern thing, saying this is us as a family and talking about it, and that's my advice. And then the person themselves feels less lonely about it.
That's great. Verity?
Yeah. And I think being prepared to have those more difficult conversations, to be able to talk about how you're feeling, because when I was particularly wound up about work, I didn't want to tell Dad about it because I thought that would upset him and it would make him more worried and more anxious, and I didn't want to burden him with my emotions when he's dealing with his own emotions. But that's never a particularly healthy way of doing it, and actually it can make your emotions bigger and more of a burden to yourself. So just telling him how I was upset and wound up at work actually really helped me to move past that and deal with that in a more healthy way. So yeah, having the slightly more difficult conversations without worrying that you're burdening the other person, I think is good. But also
admitting it is about you as well.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not this totally selfish thing, but it does affect other people, and it doesn't matter if you say things. It's better to say the things, and you know, it's not. I mean, you don't want someone who comes and visits you who just goes on, "Oh, I'm so sad because you've got cancer," and you think, "Oh, well, get over it." But
yes.
Yeah. And of course, Keith had his operation that went very well a few weeks ago now. So how have things changed, or are things the same? Where are you at now? Because the journey has kind of moved along from first diagnosis through the operation. Now we're kind of coming out the other side. Where are we at now?
Well, I turned into matron mode straight after he had his operation, and I was very bossy. And people can come and visit, but you can stay half an hour and then you've got to leave. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Goodbye. Which some people can't do. You know, you can be rude to people in a nice way. Yes, but now I'm coming slightly out of the matron because he's getting a bit stronger. I think now is the dangerous time for him to overdo it because he's feeling stronger. So like yesterday, we had a wonderful day with family, but he was absolutely knackered and grey in the evening. But he said it was worth it because it was so good.
I found when I was recovering that my brain recovered quicker than my body.
Yes.
My brain thought, oh, I could do this. Oh, why aren't I doing more? Oh, I'm now getting bored rather, because I'm sitting around and, oh, I should be helping with this or that. I think we were moving house at the time and that kind of thing. I should be helping pick up the boxes and carry things and move sofas and this kind of thing. But your body quickly tells you that after just having chemo, which is what I had, it's not the best of ideas to be carrying heavy boxes and sofas and things. So yeah, I think. Well, I'll ask him next time we have a chat for the podcast how he's getting on, whether his brain is kind of ahead of where his body is, because I know I experienced that. They eventually catch up, so they eventually get back in sync. But it definitely took my body a lot longer than I thought it would, and a lot longer than my brain anticipated as well. So yeah, that's interesting.
He had a phone call from the physiotherapist who told him about not lifting things because you can give yourself a hernia because the muscles are
because you had the operation all
and
around the stomach area.
I was very pleased about that because she was saying exactly what I was saying.
So you were right. And Verity, where are things at with you now that we're further along the journey?
Oh, well, it helped. You can see how stressed. Well, I can see how stressed I was before the operation because I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. And since it happened, it's that case of I still have the same level of busyness because I thought it was just my busyness that was making me feel overwhelmed. But I have the same level of busyness, but without that sense of panic that I can't cope with all of this. So that's been quite a drastic change, quite an immediate change. So it made me realise, oh yes, okay, it was Dad's operation. There's obviously that bit of trepidation that they took biopsies and we're awaiting the results for those biopsies of the surrounding areas. So there's that's bit of tension remaining that we're waiting for that appointment. We'll see what they say there.
Yes, 26th of May he's got.
Oh, you've got a date. Okay.
So, but it is. We haven't quite reached because it's not close enough to start worrying about that yet.
Yes. Yeah, you're still very much in the recovery stage. But yes, and for me, it's going to be it's gently moving forward with Dad to see how much he can cope with, because I've been very much giving him. I've seen him very little over the past few weeks since he's had his operation, and that's to give him space to recover. I mean, we have 3 small children, 2 of whom are very boisterous, so it's not helpful if we spend lots of time there. So we've been giving him physical space, and I've been giving him space from all my work things as well. So it will be those gently steps forward to see how getting back to where we were, but at the right pace. So that's an interesting journey going forward for me.
Well, that's great. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your experiences with us. And thank you as well for listening to this episode of the Prostate Pit Stop. We'll be back again really soon chatting with Keith a bit more about his recovery journey. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your friends. And of course, if you have family members who have been going through similar experiences, they might find this really useful. So point them in the right direction. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you really soon. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Prostate Pit Stop, sponsored by the Ferry Project. Make sure you subscribe and share.